Good afternoon, everyone. I think that everybody that had accepted is here. So I am going to go ahead and get us started. So first off, thank you all for joining us for this June TimeTerminal webinar. Today, there's going to be two presenters. First is going to be Mike Hart, who is an applications consultant that specializes in TimeTerminal. And also myself, I am Melissa Hendricks. Most of you have dealt with me, but may have never seen me. I'm the Senior Accountant and Contracts Administrator here at Information Controls. I will go and do a quick agenda overview. I am going to kick things off and go over the new order process and walk you through linking the site and sending invites to your clients. And then I'm going to pass it off to Mike Hart, who's going to go through active device management, channel partner devices, the new IT 100 features, troubleshooting, and then we will do a live Q&A session. A few housekeeping items is you will notice that all of the microphones and cameras have been disabled for the duration of the presentation, and to please hold your questions until the Q&A session. If you do have a question that comes up while we're talking, please raise your hand. You'll see up at the top, if you're in Teams, you'll see a reaction button, and then you'll just raise your hand. And we will be able to see that your hand is raised, and we will know to call on you during Q&A. If you don't want to have to ask your question with your audio, and if you're like me and you're likely to forget your question by the time we get to Q&A, please feel free to type your question in the Q&A forum. There's a Q&A button at the top of the screen. If you're from a web browser and you may not be able to see the Q&A forum, you can go ahead and type your question in the public chat, and I'll be moderating those questions, and we'll make sure we'll answer those as well when we get to the Q&A. So with that, I will jump into our new order process. First is completing and submitting the TimeTerminal order form to orders@icico.com. And I'm more than happy to make sure I give everybody a fresh copy of the order form if you need one, or if you need me to share it with somebody else within your team. There are three primary areas of the order form that help us when you fill it out. First off, your company name, the technician that's going to be the main point of contact for the order, and then that technician's contact information. So that way we know who to contact to help with the configuration and implementation. Second is filling out that customer connection information, an AOD URI or TTAE, which does require that TTAE software license as well. So that's just a side note for that. Also, what type of usage of TimeTerminal that client's going to be using. Is it going to be on the IT 100, the iPad, or a smartphone? Once that's filled out and submitted to me, I am at orders@icico.com. I will create a technician ticket, and unfortunately, I keep it until we have these next couple of steps completed here. So once you have submitted the order form, you need to log into the TimeTerminal portal as a CP and link to site. So once you log in, you'll see a screen much like this. And on the far right side, you'll see a blue button that says link site. You will have a pop-up come up that's going to ask you to fill in the URI. And then you will need to use your AOD service module credentials to link to the site. Once you have done that, you will see a tile that will show the URI, and it will be on the dashboard of the portal. And you will click the down arrow and you will invite admin, and this will send an invite to the portal to your client. If you click this down arrow and you do not see invite admin, that simply means that I need to give you channel partner access, and that just needs to be an email over to me. And then I will make sure that you are set up as a CP so you can do this feature. Once you click invite admin, you will see a pop-up that will already have the URI filled in. All you need to do is fill in the email address of the client at that site and click invite admin. This will then send them an email, and it will have a link in the email to have them create an account in the portal. Once they create their account, they will already be linked to their URI. One thing that we have noticed with these emails is that the link once due to a token. And so If they click it and they're not ready to create their portal account and then they click it again later, it will allow them to create a portal account, but they won't be automatically linked to their URI. And they will need to be walked through the steps of how to link to their URI, which I will go over in a couple of slides from here. Once you have sent an invite, you can go to the URI on the left-hand side of the screen. You will now be able to see a pending invites tab, and you can see all of the invitations that you have sent. And so you'll be able to see if you need to resend the invite or if you need to invalidate the invitation. Once your client has created their portal account, the order will be released up to the technicians for configuration and implementation. So this is where I would send the ticket up to the technicians once I've seen a portal account has been created by your end user. And I do receive email notifications, so I do see them in real time as they come through. This is that alternative sign-up method that I had just mentioned. If for some reason the invite won't send or they're not receiving it, which could be due to their email security, any type of reason like that, they just need to go to the TimeTerminal portal themselves, www.iciaod.com/tt. They can click sign up with email on the bottom of that screen. They'll fill in their information. They will need to click the review terms and conditions, which will be a pop-up. So we have had a few reports of people not being able to do the terms and conditions. So they need to work on their pop-up blocker to make sure that can pop up. They'll scroll through the terms and then they will be able to click sign up with email. Then the client will need to click the blue link site button on the right-hand side of the screen. Type in their URI. You may have to provide that to them if they don't know it already. And then they need to use their AOD credentials. And then their site will be linked. And then also they'll be able to use, once they're linked to the URI, they'll be able to use these portal credentials to activate their devices. That's actually all I have on the new order process. So I'm going to now pass the presentation over to Mike Hart, and then I will rejoin once it is the Q&A session.
Thank you, Melissa. All right, so what I am going to start off with going through here for you guys is I want to first, before I get into some of the portal features that Melissa mentioned, I'm going to go over. I want to make sure you guys are all aware that we have started building a repository of documentation around TimeTerminal. Mostly the IT 100 stuff, but there is some stuff in there for your iPads and your Android devices as well. So to start off, the easiest way to get to that documentation is through our customer support portal, which can be found at help.iciaod.com. I'll go ahead and throw that in the chat for you if you want to copy that link off for future reference. So then you're going to scroll down to this box that says Customer Library, and then you'll just click on View. So that'll take you into our Customer Library section. And then you can find everything regarding TimeTerminal under the software category here. And then we have it all kind of organized. So there's some stuff regarding the portal, your Iris ID devices, your Android, Apple devices, so on and so forth. All right. Now, as far as managing your active devices within TimeTerminal or within the TimeTerminal portal, there are a couple of things that we want to make sure that you're aware of that will help things go smoothly as far as that active device list and ensure that your customers are getting billed appropriately. So for every site you're going to see on your dashboard, you'll see a list of how many devices are active. If you click on the sites on the left-hand side there, that's going to bring up your list of devices. One of the things to point out here is what you will see as far as indicating what devices are marked as billable or non-billable. Really, the only devices that are considered non-billable are devices with this CP tag. Those are generally the devices that you guys will have either on your test URIs or demo plots, stuff like that for testing out TimeTerminal or doing demos for your clients. Now we understand that some of those devices might need to be in a pinch, might need to be sent out to the customer as a loaner, or maybe you need to include them as part of a sale to the customer when they decide to sign up with TimeTerminal. So one of the things that we ask of you guys as channel partners is if you are sending one of your CP devices to your customer for live usage, that you go through what we call the request device replacement process, so that we can make sure that that CP device is no longer marked as non-billable, and that it is now active under the customer as a billable device. So to do that, basically you're going to log in to your TimeTerminal portal. Again, on the you click on the site that you need to request the replacement for. From your devices list, you're going to identify which device is the old device. So if they're named the same thing once you have activated that replacement device or changed the name on that CP device, you can easily identify generally which one is the old one by that last communication, especially if it is an instance where the clock is down or you had an iPad that you had to reinstall TimeTerminal on, things like that. So then you're going to click on the little drop down on the right side of the device list, and you're going to select Request Replacement. From there, a dialog is going to pop up that will show you again, just confirm the device that you're requesting to be replaced. And then it will give you a selection of the new, which device should be the new one. So basically, you're requesting the replacement on the old device, and in the dialog that pops up, you're selecting the new device to replace it with. Once you hit Submit Request there, that's going to then send us an email with the details. So it'll give us the URI, the old device and the new device. We'll then create a technical support ticket. And after we have reviewed the request, pending approval by accounting for billing purposes, we will go ahead and deactivate the old device, and the new device will have already been activated via the sign-in process. All right. And then I showed you how to identify which devices are your CP devices already, but just a refresher on that, you're just looking for the CP tag in your device list. Okay. So we have rolled out a few new features in the last couple of months for the IT100s that we want to make you guys aware of. The first thing, which has been probably one of the more popular requests, is the ability to delete a template for an employee. So this is not done on the device. This is done through the TimeTerminal portal. So to kind of go through this process, what you're going to do, again, sign into your portal, click on the site that you want to delete the template from the list on the left there. And then you're going to go over to the Templates tab, and then there will be a button there for Delete Template. When you click on that, the Delete Template box will come up and basically give you a search option to find your employee. You can search by the employee ID number, the badge number, or the name. So you can, and I believe, if I remember correctly, this is something that your site admins, your clients, will have access to as well. I will double check on that, and in our follow-up email, we will make sure to mention that. So as you're typing in that search box, it will start to pop up, the employee list that matches that selection. And you will notice when you find the employee that you're looking for, that their enrollment status will be shown next to their name. So in my screenshot here, you can see that Kevin is enrolled while Stephen and Anthony are not enrolled. So then once you find the employee you're looking for, you just select them from the list. And at the bottom of that dialog, you hit delete template. What this will do is it will delete the template from the TimeTerminal server. And within about 5 minutes or so, if the devices are not touched, that template should be removed from any device that employee is sent to. If you have someone in front of the clock, say you're trying to do some troubleshooting, if you have someone in front of the clock, they can do a quick sync from the menu, and that will also remove that template. But by default, every clock syncs about every 5 minutes, so that is when that template would get removed from that device. After you have deleted a template from the portal, is that it does attempt to push templates up to the server. So let's say you have an instance where you've gone in, you've deleted a template, and someone reboots their clock within the before that clock has a chance to sync. If that device tries to push a template up to the server for that employee, the server will essentially reject it because we have marked that employee as having an invalidated template. So the only way to get the employee to be able to use the clocks again is going to be to enroll them on one of them. Once they're re-enrolled, the template is sent up to the server, and again, within 5 minutes, that new template that's enrolled should be synced down to all of the devices. All right. Another new update that we have added is the ability to update the firmware on your device from the TimeTerminal software. This is done via the admin menu. So you're going to go in, hit the button on your TimeTerminal, the menu button on your TimeTerminal, select admin menu, authenticate either via biometrics if you're an enrolled supervisor or via a TimeTerminal portal account. And then on that general settings screen that you're brought to first off, you're going to just scroll down. You'll see an option for check for firmware update. If no update is needed, it will just pop up a message saying that there is no firmware update available, and you're good to go. If you do need a firmware update, it will pop up a confirmation message telling you what firmware version it is going to update to, and then give you a little warning that says that it is going to take it can take 15 minutes or more to complete, depending on the employee or on the customer's internet connection. And then once you click OK, it's going to start the download of the firmware. It will then go in, start installing it. And as soon as the install is done, you're going to see the clock probably reboot a couple of times. And then it should go right back into TimeTerminal. Once you're back in TimeTerminal, you can always go back into the admin menu, and under your general settings, if you look at the firmware version, you'll be able to kind of confirm that it did install the firmware that it was supposed to update to. The next feature I want to go over is the ability to change the recognition mode that the IT100 is going to use to identify your employees. This is controlled by the profile the device is assigned to. So what that means is, when we set up the TimeTerminal profiles, which control the function keys, settings like double punch prevention, stuff like that, you then basically assign devices to those profiles. So for each profile, we can set a specific authentication mode, and this applies to any employees on the device that is assigned to that profile. So our first one is face or iris. This is what we treat as the default authentication mode for every new TimeTerminal profile. This authentication mode is going to look at both the face and the irises at the same time, and it will use whichever method is able to complete first. So what we've heard from Iris ID is generally the facial identification is going to be a little faster than your iris identification, but basically it will take whichever one it gets first. Then we have face and iris. This uses both of them, and it does require both a face and an iris verification for the employee to be able to punch. Face iris fusion, what this will do is it does take both of them, both facial and iris identification, but then what it does is it takes an average of the scores returned to verify the employee. So it's a little more lenient than face and iris, but a little more secure and can possibly lead to less misidentification issues if you are running into that, especially if people are wearing face masks and whatnot. And then the final two, we have iris only and face only. These are pretty self-explanatory, but they use either just the iris templates for identification or just the facial templates for identification. All right, as far as significant IT 100 troubleshooting, the major thing we wanna touch on today is potential PoE power issues. So some of the things we've had reported lately that have ended up relating to PoE power are things that would normally look like the app is having a problem. So a big example of that is if you have your device set up for no touch punch and a few, 2 to 3, maybe 4 employees are able to get through the no touch punch in a row, and then the camera preview just stops coming up. And then employees have to hit the punch button in order to punch in. What we found is that is because the clock is getting inconsistent power via the PoE module if you have that enabled, and it is the fact that the clock isn't getting enough power to start that capture process that makes it act a little weird. So in those types of scenarios, the best troubleshooting step to do is to remove PoE from the equation if you think you're possibly having a PoE related issue. And the easiest way to do that we found is to just disable the PoE output from the port on the network switch and power the device locally via the AC adapter. Now, one of the things, just to kind of go over, one of the documents we have here that I've put together is the PoE Power Draw. My stuff is not loading for some reason. Here it is. Okay. It's just not updating the names, probably because I'm zoomed in for some reason. But essentially what this will tell you if you do go in and look at this document that we have is it will tell you in every, in the various modes that the clock will run in, what that peak power draw is. So that can give you an idea of what to test for if you think you're having a PoE issue. All right. And with that, I think we are ready for the Q&A section. So what we're going to do now is we will go in and we will enable, I'm going to enable the mics for certain few people. If you have any questions, like Melissa said, you can use the hand raise option, or you can just type your questions into that Q&A section, and then we will get them answered. So I will stop presenting.
Okay, so we had, our first question came in was from Mike Gelderman. Is there currently a way for us to remove an admin account from the portal? For instance, if a user leaves a company and they want to prevent access. I can answer that if you'd like me to, Mike Hart.
Go ahead, Melissa.
Okay. So at this exact moment, that's not something that we've released out to a channel partner access, but it absolutely can be done by the ICI team. So that would just require a tech support ticket being submitted. And what we do is we can disable any type of user account. For example, if they leave or they just, you don't want them to have access to TimeTerminal devices anymore. So we can disable an account, but at this moment, it is only for the ICI team.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and enable the mic for Carrie Nelson. Carrie, you will need to unmute yourself if you are planning to verbally ask your question. So go ahead.
So I just had a question. You and I talked, I believe it was yesterday, Mike. Could you just for TMS or our sales teams or whatever the case may be, can you list what TimeTerminal does not support at this time?
That is a large question that I don't think we have the time for. As far as the IT100 devices specifically go, the major things that we're not supporting right now but are planned is Wi-Fi network connections and the card reader. But other than that, if there's a situation that comes up that you think TimeTerminal can address, just simply let us know, and we will we'll get you the answers that you need.
So what about the PoE? Didn't you say yesterday that you guys you're not really on board with that yet either?
I did not. No, that's not the sentiment I was trying to express. PoE is certainly supported. We just, there have been instances where we have noticed that PoE can cause issues. So give me just a second. It looks like Mike wants to add in here. Just gotta find him. Okay, Mike, you are allowed to.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to add one comment on the PoE. It's and most people probably already know this. You must be plugged into PoE Plus if you're going to use a PoE feature on the IT100 device. PoE Plus on a customer switch is, just provides more wattage, more power to the device. So you really have to be aware of what the client is plugging into if you have an IT100 that is PoE enabled. TimeTerminal does not have really any impact on you using PoE. We don't control that really in any way. That is a hardware feature. And if you order it that way from the factory, then you have it. But as Mike was pointing out, we have seen issues in the past where clients do not plug it into the appropriate power, and it'll appear that there are issues with software. But the reality is device is acting weird because it doesn't have enough power to complete the functions that it's trying to do. So I just wanted to add that note. PoE Plus, Google it, check it out. If you use that feature, you must have PoE Plus for a network switch.
Okay, and then just one other thing. Iris lists that the smart card is that still in relation to like same as the procs? It's not supported at this time.
Yeah, anything relating to the card reader attachment is not supported currently.
Okay. All right. I think that's all I had for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
The next written question is from Mike Elderman. How can we designate a device as a CP device?
Again, so that is a feature that is not currently released to the channel partner level of the portal. So if you have a new device that you've either received from Iris ID or a new iPad or something that is not currently marked as CP, just notify information controls, and we will get that marked as a CP device for you.
I think next up is John Brondello, if you want to enable his mic.
Yep, give me just a second. Go ahead, John, just unmute yourself.
Great, thank you. I was just curious how soon or where on the map is the Wi-Fi? I know that's something that's been asked for by a larger customer of ours that'd be interested in that significantly. This is for Iris time.
I don't have a specific ETA for that. But I do know that it is at the top of the list for the next release or two. I don't have an exact ETA on it. And we've been dealing with some other issues that have taken priority away from development on that feature, but it is going to be soon. I just don't have an ETA.
No, that's fine. And then just to be clear, on the standard time terminal on an iPad, that works fine with Wi-Fi. Is that correct?
Yeah. That as far as time terminal on any of the iPads, smartphones, stuff like that. Network settings aren't involved at all in that. It's just with the IT100, we kind of have to put all of the settings within our app when we do that. And the reason Wi-Fi didn't make it in, just long story short, there were some issues that we noticed with the configuration of it when we first got our hands on the devices. So we were working with Iris ID to kind of address that.
Perfect, thank you.
Next up is, what read mode does the IT100 default, and what mode do you recommend if we are having issues?
I'm assuming by read mode, they mean those recognition modes. So like I said, the default is the face or iris, which looks at both, but will use whichever one it can grab first. If you are having significant issues with people punching or potentially misidentification issues, the suggestion largely depends on whether employees are wearing face masks or not. If employees are wearing face masks, the suggestion would be to try the iris only mode. If they're not, you could try the fusion mode and see if that helps out. But those would be the two different recognition modes that I would suggest if recognition issues are reported.
On that topic, Mike, did you already share anything about colored contact lenses?
I did not.
So it's definitely worth mentioning right now, I guess, while we're talking about recognition mode. So if you're set to iris only and an employee has fake colored contact lenses, Mike will share what happens.
Colored contact lenses will block the device's view of the iris, and therefore will either make it hard to enroll the employee to begin with, or will make it hard to identify that person. in that our list of documents there, I have put together a best practices document that kind of lists some of the important things that can impact the quality of the enrollment and the recognition of the employee. So feel free to take a look at that. Just kind of high level, the most popular things that can impact the quality of the enrollment are lighting, the employee's own eyelids if they're not opening their eyes wide enough, glasses, false eyelashes or colored contact lenses, as Mike said, and face masks.
At this moment, I don't see any other questions coming in, but let's just give it a minute and see if anybody comes up with anything.
John Gaynor has added also glass eyes can pose a problem. I could see that because that they might not necessarily have the characteristics of an iris that is naturally occurring. So I will make sure to add that to our list. Are there any other questions? Looks like we got a question from Justin, so we'll go ahead and allow him. And just unmute yourself, Justin, and go ahead. Oh, he does not have a mic. Okay, go ahead and just type your question in the chat then. Oh, yes. Yeah, that is something that I was experiencing with Justin the other day with the firmware update feature. For some reason, when it would download and install, it kept causing app crashes. I don't have any specific details on what would be causing that. But in those events, just let us know if that's a problem, and what we can do is, you know, we'll walk through some troubleshooting stuff with you, and you know, if we absolutely can't get our firmware update process to work, we have a backup that we can go through as well. But just a heads up, I guess, in case you're trying to do those firmware updates and they fail, or they're causing weird things for you as well. Any other questions? Looks like John Laws has something. Go ahead and unmute yourself, John.
Yeah, the firmware update, is that the same as the app update that we've been downloading from Iris ID Direct?
So the firmware version, if you've had problems with it and we've given you that URL, then yes, that's probably the same thing. But we separate things into the app update, which is the TimeTerminal app, which if you're looking in your general settings is reported as the software version. Those apps are applied, or app updates are applied automatically. The firmware version is something you have to go seek out directly from the device. So whether it's through our update process or there is a way to request that update directly from Iris ID as well. We would like everyone, because we have tried to make it easier to get those firmware updates, we'd like you to at least try to do them through our function as well. But if you have significant issues with them, we will provide you alternative ways to get that firmware update.
Thank you.
All right. Well, if there aren't any other questions, I think we can go ahead and wrap everything up.
Yep. So I just want to thank everybody for joining us. We will be sending out an email with the presentation recording and all of the resources that we showed you and mentioned today. If you do think of any additional questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can reach out to myself or you can reach out to tech support directly, and have a great rest of your week.